which we love very much. We've gotten to know you guys. How long have we known each other now, Joe and Shelby?
I believe, guys, we're coming up on 4 years.
4 years?
4 years. Are you kidding me?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say 2 years.
From the first time I met you guys, no, it's got to be. It's at least 3, Pablo, because if you think about when we met and all that has happened in your guys' life since then, you start getting that. We've just been doing so much life together, bro, in different countries and stuff that time flies when you're having fun.
Wow.
That's true, bro. I just my fondest memories of. I mean, I have so many great. We've just built such an awesome relationship, and the time that you've come into my life has really been, I think, divine.
Yeah.
Because you've just really come into my life in such a moment where I needed a friend like you, and I'm so happy that, and I'm so blessed that we're gonna get all mushy here, bro. I love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
Well, I can tell you this: from when we met you guys 4 years ago to who you are today, you're completely different people. And it has been truly an honor in our life to watch you guys grow and mature in so many different aspects of your life. So
wow,
we're honored to do life together.
Awesome, guys. Well, we're really excited to do this episode here today. We have a really, I think, a lot of controversial topics. The thing is that society for many years, I think, has had a really strong chokehold on a lot of these topics. Meaning the opposite point of view, or kind of different point of view than what we believe, or even what the Word of God teaches.
Right.
And a lot of these things have just been so mainstream, and I think they still are in a way. A lot of these conversations that we're going to have, but what I do see now is that there are a lot of voices that are willing to speak,
step up
and say hey, actually my experience isn't that. I actually don't believe that. I actually, so different things. So we're excited to get to that, but I just wanted to first introduce Joe and Shelby. Joe and Shelby, you guys have been married for how many years?
I always ask the husband because I always test to see if he knows.
Joe,
not
putting you on the spot, bro.
Not a test. We married 28 years this year.
Come on, bro.
And we've been together for 31.
Wow.
And so we've
3 decades.
Yeah, we've been doing life together for a long time, and we met in high school, and the Lord brought us together, and it has been an incredible journey. I think one of the unique things about our story is that we didn't really have, to your point, Pablo, we didn't have anyone actually that showed us what it looked like to actually have a biblical marriage. And so even marriage was so foreign to us because all we had was the examples that were around us. And so many times people have developed these really deep defining moments in their life that have them define things based on their experience as opposed to actually what it originally is or what the intent of it is.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, 100%. And you guys have been doing this in California, of all places, like one of the most difficult places to have that. What we talk about here is we are the 3 most important things that we're trying to build here are godly marriages, godly offspring, and healthy finances. And so I know a lot of people that do each one of these individually really well, but I know very few people that do all
of them at the same time.
Can do all of them at the same time. Not saying that there's a perfect couple, there's a perfect person, because there isn't. But that's where these conversations, I think, are very important. And so you guys have been married for that long in California, one of the most difficult places to do that.
And every time we've been able to talk to you guys together and individually, it just, I'm always I admire you guys and I respect you guys because it's hard, it's hard to, and it's not just like you guys are just barely making it, like you guys are thriving, as when I see you guys together as a marriage. And I think that is something that a lot of us want. We don't just want to be like barely hanging on by a thread. We want to be thriving in, with your children and finances and your marriage. Every time I see you guys are like in love, you guys, love each other. So it's something that we want to talk about here, like, how to keep that, how to keep that going, how to sustain it. I mean, 28 years, that's huge, So I don't know if you want to get to the
let's get
first-
started. Let's get started with our first segment here. Merari, if you can go to that.
It's just a post.
Yeah, it's just
not
a post.
It's not a video.
So tell us how you came across this post, babe.
So I saw this post and I thought, whoa, like that's interesting because I got married at 22. So, she's a famous actress, I'm told. I didn't even know who she was. That's how disconnected I am from the mainstream, I guess. And she is a huge influencer for this younger generation. She's a Disney Plus, I guess, actress. I forget where is she, Merari? Like, where does she appear?
This is a picture of Olivia Rodrigo. So she is a High School Musical, the series, I guess, on Disney Plus, and also a very famous singer.
Okay.
Okay, so the post says 23-year-old Olivia Rodrigo tells British Vogue that she's a long way from marriage. And there's a quote
Of
her, and it says, "I'm a long way from." You read it, baby.
It says, "I'm a long way from marriage. What am I? A child bride? I hope that young girls know that life is full of so much joy that is unrelated to having a husband or kids."
Yeah,
Totally get it.
And she's 22
Yeah,
years old.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
22 years old. So we kind of wanted to get your guys' reaction from this. Just immediately, obviously, like to me, I think it I understand that you can't make generalities
Right.
and say like, hey, everybody needs to get married at a certain age and say, or everybody shouldn't get married at a certain age.
Yeah.
I'm gonna speak though from the place of marriage is so
Well, the reason why I
fulfilling.
thought that it was interesting was because she used the word, the phrase child bride. I mean, definition of a child bride is an 18, it's a minor, it's a younger
Yeah.
girl, right? Under 18 years old. So her using that term for herself as a 23-year-old or 22-year-old, I thought that was interesting. I thought, wait a minute, like, why are you calling yourself a child bride? So, I mean, you can just get into so much like, her mindset of even herself that she thinks she's a little kid. It's like, no, you're 23. You're an adult. I mean, you're allowed to vote. You're allowed to drink. You're allowed, So I guess for me, it was important to talk about it because I don't know if this is how this younger generation is thinking about marriage at 23, that you consider yourself a child bride. So I kind of wanted to talk about that because I got married at 22. So I'm like, then I'm a child bride.
Looks like I got married with a child bride.
Right. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that
Definitely
and
not.
just, of course,
Definitely not a
no,
child
of course not. But it's something I
What
kind
is
of
your
wanted
guys'
to
reaction
get
to
Joe
this?
and Shelby's
Joe and Shelby.
reaction on that. You might disagree. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where she's coming from, but I also feel like, and I deal with I coach and mentor a lot of younger women in their 20s. And when they feel kind of the same way, they resonate a little bit with this, but I really feel like it's because they haven't yet found that right person. And so they're like on the search, and they've probably even had a lot of hurt in relationships.
Yeah.
And so initially when I heard this, I'm like, oh, girl has had some hurt in her past relationship. And she's
Yeah.
literally just kind of, resonating that onto social media.
Right.
And so I think she, first of all, probably needs to be healed of some hurt. And then she just hasn't found the right guy yet, because I guarantee if she found the right guy who swept her off her feet, that would all change.
Right.
Next week, she'd be like, oh, look, I'm so in love. Like
Yeah.
I found someone I want to be with the rest of my life. And we're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, you didn't want to be a child bride. So what changed?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and I think it's all, and I'm going to come right to you, Joe, because I know you have a lot to say with that. But I want to specifically focus it like this. Okay, you guys got married kind of at an earlier age as well. We got married at an earlier age as well, and you guys are happily married. This is how many 28 years later. We're happily married 14 years later, about to be 15 years later. I got it. About to be 15 years later. Like, I guess my question to you, Joe, is where was your mindset at 22 that got you to think differently than what Olivia Rodrigo is speaking about?
Yeah. So first, I think one of the things, Shelby hit it right on the head, guys. I think we have to look at the way marriage is actually perceived today, even from when we actually got married. So I think one of the things that you're seeing in society is trying to change what marriage is.
Yeah.
And what's the actual purpose behind marriage, right? And so like I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I can tell you that she would really resonate with what was said. Like she has even said, like, I don't need a man to like be who I need to be. Like she is very much focused right now on becoming who God's called her to be. And it's not that she doesn't want to get married someday, because she does want to be a mother. She does want to be, a wife. But right now in her concept of what she wants to achieve, it's hard for her to see how anyone else, right, can come into her life now and actually bring value to what she thinks God wants to do in her life. I think here's the difference for us, Pablo and Gabby, and maybe for you as well, is we are 19 and 20 years old. We met at 16 and 17 years old. And our relationship was at the beginning and continues to be grounded and rooted in Christ, right? So our faith plays a huge part in the way we view marriage and what's expected in a marriage, and actually what we actually both desired, right? And I think that what's happening, Pablo, too, is I think that people think they can get things that they desire in this society now, side of marriage, that God never intended them to get. So I also think as people have redefined what marriage is, right? And I think that even this idea of a child bride at 22, right? Again, I think that's very much a cultural thing, because if you went to other places around the world, they would never use that terminology at 22 years old, right? There's still people around the world, guys, that getting married at 15, 16, even, 17, 18 years old is common, right? Whether we agree with it or not, right? It's cultural. I think, though, we've got to understand the difference between someone's preference, because I think that's what this young lady is saying. Like, hey, in my preference, I'm so far away from being married because I'm really focused on me. And let's be honest, I think one of the unique things about marriage from our perspective, and I think from yours as well, is I wasn't still looking for me. I was looking for us. Right? I realized for me to be all that God had called me to be and created me to be, I was looking for my helpmate. Right? And so I think for us at a young age, once we knew this was the person, not just like Shelby said, not just like infatuated with how beautiful she is today and how beautiful she was at, 17, but really knowing that she was the other half. She was the partner that God had created me for, and I was the one that was created for her. So I think that we didn't rush to the altar, even though a lot of people that hear our story are like, oh my gosh, you got married at 19. How could you do it? I think when you know it's the right person, why would you wait? Because there's a lot of things that people open themselves up to today relationally that leave a lot of shame and guilt and just heartbreak, that because we grew up together and even in our marriage, we still felt like we were growing up together. We were maturing, right? Age didn't mean that we were adults, right? Actually, responsibility and accountability is what really shows that you're an adult. And isn't marriage really rooted in responsibility and accountability, both to each other and to the Lord? And so I think that that's the interesting thing about today. I don't think young people want the accountability or the responsibility of what a real marriage relationship requires, because it requires you actually prioritizing someone else in a culture and a society where we're taught to really go after what I want or what I want to be and how it's all about me. You can see how a traditional version of marriage is challenging to people when all of a sudden the other picture they see is, over 50% of marriages end in divorce. Why would I do something that most people fail at? Where for us, and I think for you guys, we realize that marriage, like there's no option. Like we love each other and we're going to do the work, because having a marriage that lasts 3 decades, or relationship that lasts 3 decades, is not easy. Like, I think that sometimes people see what Shelby and I look like on the outside, but they don't understand all the hard work and the hard work that we've had to do. Even this week, we were learning new ways to communicate with each other because we realized some of the tools that we've been using just aren't getting to the depth. They're not speaking to the heart. And so we're constantly trying to evolve and grow. And I think what's happening with younger people is they like where they are. And so the idea of giving up where they are is something that's foreign to them.
That's so good. I mean, you said so many key things. And I think one of the things that you just said right now that I was like, I don't think we think about this too much is the whole, like, when Adam was created, God had a helpmate for him. And I think that when we see marriage is, you're right, it's a lot of me. Like, well, I want to get married because I want to be happy. I want to get married because, it's going to fulfill me. It's going to bring me accomplishments. But I think that right now what you just said is so true. Like, even that, like, helpmate, like,
Helpmate.
you were I mean, the men, and even, I mean, this goes to so many things, but even the roles of, a husband and a wife, like, even society, like, if we talk about roles, like, in the biblical perspective, even that is hard to
Digest.
So I think it's that, like, defining, we need more people speaking loudly and boldly and saying,
Yeah.
hey, like, hey, you aren't meant to, find a wife. You are meant to find a husband.
Well, I think that's what it is, because I think that it's, I love that, especially women, because historically speaking, this opportunity to pursue dreams and to really have the whole world at your disposal, at your fingertips, specifically for women, just hasn't been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always been this expectation in women, either to, grow up and, be this or be that, or, like, their future decided for them, And so I understand that, especially now here in America and different places around the world, it's like, no, you can spread your wings.
Well,
let
me ask Shelby.
But I think in that, but with that, let me just finish what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
But with that, no, it's okay. But with that, I'm saying, with all that, like, freedom to do anything, is there also that potential to become, like, to?
Well, that's what I want to add. Like, I don't know about Shelby, how you feel, but, like, because I understand, that there's women that say, hey, I want to become what I want to become. And I don't want a man or kids or, responsibilities to get in the way. I totally get that. I understand why. But I guess, I look at Shelby and I see her so accomplished. I see her so, like, independent, even though she is so united with Joe and she's so, like, you're like one with him. But at the same time, I see such an independence. But I also think it's because Joe has understood, how to let Shelby be Shelby. And I feel the same thing with you. Like, if it wasn't for you, I always tell you this, like, I don't think I would be the Gabby that I am now. So I think even that, it's like, I mean, I guess I'll let you talk, Shelby. Like, what do you feel about that? Like, do you think it matters also the husband that you have, like, to allow you to be who you're supposed to be?
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's rooted in security, right? Joe has to be secure enough as a man to be like, okay, wow, God, you've given me this gift, and now I have to steward this gift well. How do I do that? How can I set my daughter up to be able to use the gifts and the talents that you've given her? And how can I support that? And Joe has always made this joke, like, he's going to be the one carrying my my bag, my purse, which he has to many different, conferences and stuff that I've spoken at. But a man has to be secure enough in himself to be able to pull out the treasure in the women that God has given him. And a lot of men, unfortunately, and some of it's the women's fault too, has demoralized, demasculinized men. Mm-hmm. And so now we're paying for part of that because men are not secure enough in who they are in order to help propel us forward, which ultimately propels us both forward, our family forward, our legacy forward. And then really what does that do? That causes our ceiling to lift. Mm-hmm. And then that is the floor that our children get to launch from, is the feeling.
Mm.
And so it has always been, he has always been my greatest fan, greatest supporter. He believes in me when I don't believe in myself, but it takes a very secure man and who they are and who God created them to be, and
So
just who
good.
they are as a man.
Yeah.
And it's a fight, you know, he has to fight for that
Yeah.
security. And so that's definitely, but if a couple can get that,
Mm.
you will 10x, 100x, 1000x multiply the impact that you can have in the
So
world.
good.
But I think the other thing you got to realize too is comparison is what actually kills the destiny in your marriage.
Wow.
Right.
Mm.
So understanding that God, who created everything out of nothing, in his infinite wisdom, he put you
Mm.
and this person out of 1 in 8 billion people in the world.
Mm.
He decided to put the two of you together, and it's not by accident.
Mhm.
So we've always believed also that our marriage is unique. Right now, we learn the principles and the guidelines from the Word of God on what He says marriage is, right? To give us a North Star, right? So that we can check in and say, how are we doing based on what God has said marriage is? But always remember this, even in doing that, we are uniquely created by God. And so no one is going to have the same marriage that Joe and Shelby have, or Pablo and Gabby have. And one of the real challenges, and if you think about this, when you're comparing yourself or your relationship to any other relationship, it's easy to find relationships you feel like you're better than,
Mhm.
but it's even easier. And the enemy works really hard to make you look for things where you go, man, we just don't measure up.
Mm.
Man, I wish Pablo could be more like, or Joe could be more like, or Shelby could be more like. And that's a trap of the enemy.
Mm.
And so that's the other thing about a social media driven
Right.
generation.
Yeah.
They only know comparison. Why do you think
Mhm.
they're all struggling to find true identity?
Wow.
And here's the other thing I think is unique. I am me all by myself, meaning God has purpose and design in Joe, and he has purpose and design in Shelby. And when we actually come together the way God created us, what happens, guys, is I amplify the purpose and the design in Shelby. And she amplifies the purpose and design that God has in
So
me.
good.
We actually become a multiplier. We don't take from, we add to.
Mm.
And if anyone were to see marriage the way God really intended it and actually see it functioning, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
And I think,
Yeah.
man, that's so good.
That's
Thank you
so
for
good.
articulating it that way,
Yeah.
Joe and Shelby, because that's what it is, and
Mhm.
that's the point that I guess I'm trying to convey. And I'm
Yeah.
saying, yes, it's amazing to accomplish things on your own, and yes, it's amazing to just go out there and conquer the world.
Yeah.
But you have no, like, from experience, like I say, that the way that God designed it in marriage, it really is a multiplier effect. Like, it's
Yes.
like when you live to like serve, when as I live to serve Gabby and she does the same with me, it's like there are things that I would have never thought I would have accomplished. But now
Seriously.
that but there's a totally different
Yeah.
mindset. Instead of saying like, oh man, she's gonna limit me from this, or oh, she's gonna, like, now I can't do this because now this, or now
Yes.
it actually works the opposite.
Opposite. Yes. No, I totally
Multiplication
agree.
doesn't even happen until you have more than one of.
Huh.
Because one times anything is just the same,
Yeah.
right? But you have to have two is better than one, because there's a greater return
Yeah.
for their labor,
Yeah.
right? Like when we work together, this is why marriage is always under attack. Because if you can cause division,
Mhm.
right? Now it's two people, but they're going in opposite directions.
Mhm.
They're not actually tying into the most powerful tool in marriage, which is unity and
Wow.
oneness.
I just feel
Because
the
the
Lord
moment-
on this. Like for
Yeah.
you, as your guys are, as you're talking, I just think that right now, as you're speaking, the both of you, it's just, I just feel like truth bombs going out and just like destroying all the lies that say like, well, because I go back to even when I got asked when I think we were engaged, Pablo and I were engaged, and I was 21, I think. I think I was 21 when I got engaged for my 21st birthday. Pablo
My child
gave me
bride.
a ring. And oh God. And I remember I got asked by someone who was already very well accomplished. They had their career. And she was like, how are you gonna get married? Like, you guys don't have anything, because we didn't have anything, like we
Not
had
even a mattress.
nothing, like, we didn't have a house, like nothing, and she's like, how are you going to make it? Like, don't you want to wait and just first, get your career, get a house? And she started naming me all this like checklist of stuff. And I was like, no, like, I want to build with him. Like, I want to build everything with Pablo. Like, isn't that the fun part? I guess that's just what how I was thinking. Like, that was my mentality of like, we're going to do everything together. But I guess that's not right now. It's like what Joe was talking about, that togetherness, that unity of that, just how you tap into like the power of multiplication. Like, it's so true, Paul. I've seen it in my life. Like, we started from nothing. Like, we had nothing. We literally had nothing. Like just a mattress that we bought and like
That's
a
why.
sofa.
That's
that we
why
were
anything that
given.
comes our way, we're like, yeah, wow, look at us. It's amazing.
But it's,
guys, let me ask you this
Yeah.
question, because I love what you just said. So let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you actually need?
See.
That's the problem. People have a big list of all these things they think
Yeah.
they need first,
so true.
right?
Yeah.
And in actuality, I don't know. When I look at the garden, what did they need? Well, it wasn't good that man should be alone. It doesn't
Right.
say he had a mansion sitting there, right? He's in a garden, right? Like but then God brought the woman to the man,
Yeah.
right? And there's something divine about that, right? That now all of a sudden there was ability to multiply.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes people, they forget that God said, be fruitful, multiply, fill, subdue, and have dominion. Like, you tell me how that happens with just one.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you could be fruitful, but I don't think the multiplication is going to happen. Right? And then how do you fill and how do you subdue and have dominion on your own? And so I think that this is a trap of the enemy too, is that, we were just talking to our adult son the other day, and he was saying how if you look at this, Pablo, around the world, right, less and less people are having children.
Yes.
Right? Like, this is something that is really like, people are starting to identify this, not just here in America, but in other countries around the world, in China. And they are literally like looking at it like, hey, in a few years, we're going to have so many older people and not enough younger people working for our society to function. And so it's interesting because some of the things that people are kind of balking against, right, or coming against, I'm like, guys, it was set up that way for a reason. And we just don't think that way anymore.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. That's actually true. I mean, that's why here in the government, if for every child now that you have until 2028, you get $1,000. That's like like they're incentivizing
so
people.
Pablo and Gabby are being fruitful and multiplying. I love it.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I mean,
like little,
we're having one
commercial
more,
right
and that's
I know.
Yeah, no, we took that literally. We're multiplying.
There's the verse that we were and you mentioned it right now, Ecclesiastes 4. It starts off at 9. It says, 2 are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help them. One can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And so when you have these conversations and when you say, oh, look, how amazing and how beautiful and all this, I think the challenge, especially for young people, is like, well, of course I want that. But then to Shelby's point earlier, but where am I going to find that guy, or where am I going to find that girl? Or like, and then it's like, we look for this, like, and then what you're saying, the comparison and social media and all this stuff. Oh yeah, well, I'm going to look for a guy that does this, 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 and this. Like, don't do that, like, for Joe, or don't do that for me that's made a whole bunch of mistakes. Like, if you're gonna, like, if that's what you're gonna do, then go to my social media when I was like 18, 19, knucklehead, like making blunders in my finances and doing all these different things. So I guess my question is, okay, well, so for the younger people that do want something like this, what is it? What is it? I don't even know my question.
What
is
does
like,
it require? I think I saw our friend Jackie Dorman. She posted something very funny when she was like, put down what did she say? Like her 10 fingers.
Oh, bro, that was that was brutal for
that
David.
was a really, for David. But she mentioned something. Her point was that like when she found, her husband, he wasn't 100% where he is now. I mean, now that we know like David, we're like, dude, he's like the perfect man, right? After 20 something years. But in the beginning, like, I mean, I have stories about Pablo. Like he wasn't the best, right? And I'm same with me. Like I wasn't the best, but I guess what Pablo's trying to ask and talk to this younger generation, like, what are the things that we can advise this younger generation? Like, hey, if this guy or this girl has this, like, you can kind of overlook it because at the end of the day, they're going to grow with you. Because I think a lot of times it happens to me as someone who's in ministry and who works with youth, and same thing with my family. Well, now they're all married. My brother-in-laws are all married. But even in the beginning, when they were seeking a spouse, you do get scared, right? You get like very fearful of like them making the wrong choice. And I think that's a lot of fear right now in this generation of that, because they're afraid of marriage.
Yeah, there you go.
And they're afraid of a divorce. They're afraid.
Failure.
They're just afraid of failure.
Yeah.
So like who can you build with, and who can you be like, yeah, they're not perfect, but they do have this and this and this and this, and I can move on with them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think today, unfortunately, every generation seems to be this way, that they look more and more for like the looks of somebody, right? And especially, we've kind of already rehashed this about social media, right? They just get on their phone every 2 seconds and they see everyone's highlight reels and how good they look. And so I think we've got to get real deep and really get under the surface level of somebody and find out their character, their values. There's a lot of, I hear people say like, oh, he's just not that cute, or he's just not tall, dark, and handsome, and it's usually very much so about the surface level of that person, as opposed to really getting into, underneath the surface and finding out the values, the priorities of that person. Because, honey, looks are going to change, like it or not. Will you look today at 20 years old and think you're all hot and sexy, you got it going on, is going to be different at 30, at 40, at 50, and at 60.
It sure did get different for you.
It
got better. Better and better and better.
I have a question for you guys. So, before we started the episode, Merari and we were having this conversation about, divorce and people staying married for like about 10, 15 years. But then different circumstances come up and they're unable to they're unable to sustain their marriage, which eventually ends up in divorce. Being that you guys are 20 something years, which means that you guys are about 10 years ahead of us. What are some of those things that what are some of those things that help you stay together? But what are those? Because we're stepping into an age now, Gabby and I, where it's going to be more and more common for different people our age to be like, oh, onto their second marriage, et cetera. What are some of those things that have helped you guys stay? Like some of those, what are the things that we don't know that are coming up that are like, oh, these are potential, like you got to be careful for those because, bro, that'll really kill your love for one another. Like what are some of those?
Well, you said one thing. You said they're unable to kind of stay the course of marriage. And I'm going to rephrase it and say they're unwilling to. Because you can stay the course with anything that if you're willing to put the work into it. And marriage is the hardest work, I believe, one will ever do in their lifetime.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And let me just say this, don't hear what Shelby is not saying for all of your listeners. Shelby is not saying that there's not actual things, right? Abuse and neglect and adultery. Like there are some things. So if you're like listening to this podcast, like don't hear what she's not saying. Marriage is hard. Even without those things, marriage is hard and difficult and challenging. And yet, there are things that, like you said, to your point, Pablo, I think that, there are people that hey, they didn't want to get divorced, right? Things happened in their life and in their relationship, maybe were even right outside of their control, and they found themselves on the other side of a divorce, right? And so no shame, no guilt, no condemnation, because none of that is in Christ Jesus, by the way, right? So if you feel that the enemy's lying to you, if you're listening to this podcast and you feel that, I just want you to know the enemy is a liar and he's father of all lies. But here's the interesting thing I think about when you talk to couples. There are different seasons in marriage, Pablo, and I think that's what you're identifying. Like there's that, everyone loves the honeymoon phase, right? It's like hey, I love you, I'm committed to you, I'm willing to sacrifice for you, and like we get married, right? And everything's new, but no one tells you in the honeymoon phase that there's also, like Shelby didn't like me in the first year of our marriage. She always loved me, but I was still so immature and so selfish and so self-centered that it was creating conflict in our relationship. But we didn't quit. I remember our first fight, like our real first fight. We looked at each other and we decided we had to forgive each other. Because what was the alternative? Right? The alternative is what? To carry bitterness and anger the whole rest of our life? Because we weren't quitting on our marriage because we got into conflict. We realized that any relationship is going to have to actually have conflict, and conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it can expose things in our own hearts that we might need to work on.
And if I was to go back and to tell our younger self in the stage of marriage that you guys are at with young kids, is take time for each other. Continue to build into your marriage, because when you have kids and life and there's school, and you got to drop them off here, and you have church here, and you're so busy doing so many things that you actually lose sight of who the person is next to you, right? You're just like, okay, you do this and I'll do this, and you do that for decades. And then
100%.
one day your kids get older and you're like, whoa, how did we get here? And then one's in college and one decides to go to Africa, and you're like, hold up here.
Well,
wait a minute.
And I think you can never put your marriage on autopilot. Right? This is the issue. Like many times we get into seasons, we're like, oh, we know this season. And we kind of just put our marriage into autopilot, and we stop prioritizing the most important relationship in our life outside of our relationship with the Lord. Right? And so I think that if you want a marriage that's going to last in every season, and in your guys' season, I think Shelby said it best, continue to pour into each other and make sure that your kids see you loving each other, right? And that you don't just love each other because you have kids. You actually have kids because you love each other. Did you hear what I said?
That's good.
Like people get this twisted. Like it's not like, oh, the kids didn't come first. The relationship and the commitment here came first. And so we got to be careful that we're not loving each other through our kids, but we're actually loving each other for our kids. We're showing them a model of what it looks like to be committed and to be in a relationship. And it's not always easy. Matter of fact, our kids have seen some of the ugly. You know what I'm saying? Like they've seen some of the things that we've had to grow through together. But they've also seen us humble ourselves, repent, ask for forgiveness, get reconnected, and continue to move forward. And so I think that's the other thing, is that we live our life. We try and do it, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, really authentically. We don't want to be somebody different on this camera than we are when the camera goes off, right? We want to be who we're created to be. We've got messes we're constantly working on. We've got things that we're trying to grow in. And so I just think that in every phase of your marriage, you've got to check, hey, am I prioritizing my spouse and my marriage right now? Or have I gotten this thing put on autopilot? And here's what I know. When you put it on autopilot, Pablo, it's easy to then say, oh, I don't want this anymore. It's easy to give up and to quit on your marriage when you actually aren't putting in the effort. And it's easy to blame the other person for what they're not doing when you actually forgot that marriage is not about what they do for you, right? Marriage is about mutually loving and respecting each other and having a commitment that will last a lifetime.
Do you think that it becomes not necessarily harder, but a little bit more of a trickier challenge when the kids leave, when the kids grow up and then they, and they move on, because now you're a bit more mature, which means that you're probably more aware of your needs. And if you're more aware of your needs, you're more aware of how the other person isn't meeting those needs. Is that kind of one of the
Well,
one of
you
the
remember
things
how
to
you
look out
guys
for?
said at the beginning of your marriage you had nothing,
Yeah.
and so you had to work together to get everything?
Yeah.
So I think what happens in marriage is when you work together really hard and you build a life and you build finances and you build a future, that all of a sudden we can kind of go back to that self-reliant. Like, I think I could do this. Like, I don't know that I need you. And
wow,
all of a
that's so
sudden,
good.
now your helpmate,
That
the
is so
person that
good.
is
Yeah.
beside
Man.
you to actually help you propel, now the enemy tries to make you feel like, because to your point, it's like, oh, there's certain needs that she's not meeting, right? Well, marriage all about me. That's a very self-centered place. And it's easy when your kids leave. Like, that was a challenge for us. Like, we were not ready, and we were blessed. Our kids left and came back, right? So we had a little taste of what it's going to be like. But what we realized is we had not put a vision together for when our kids leave. We actually had all these dreams of grandkids and stuff that we talked about and all that, but we didn't have the gap. We didn't have hey, what happens when they are trying to find people and have kids? And right, we had oh, we're together and we're gonna have grandkids, but that's not how life happens, right? Or at least sometimes.
Yeah.
And so we actually, Pablo's a great question. We had to revisit, hey, what do we want? What are our goals? What are our shared vision with each other? Because, when you get successful, right? When you start doing things and you start getting a certain level of success in your life, it's easy to start believing your own press. But I did not get where I am today by myself. Shelby did not get where she is today by herself. We actually got there together in unity with the Lord. And so if there's things we want to improve, we've got to work on improving them. So like I said, we're working on communication right now because it's a new season of our life and our marriage. And we realized we started communicating to problem solve or just to talk about things we were excited about. Right. So we were trying to have other conversations, right? Outside of those two types of conversations, they would end in arguments because we just lost that. No, this is just to connect. I just want to connect with you. I just want to understand you better. Right. I just want you to know that I'm on your team. Like, we have a mutual respect for each other. We actually like to talk to each other and spend time together, but you can lose that.
So would you say one of the ditches, would you say that one of the ditches is becoming so self-reliant? Because I know that it happens to me, like in business, and I'll share this story. And man, it's like whenever I think I've arrived or whenever I think I am worth something, or like there was this property, right? That was, the first business that we started shooting real estate properties. Okay. So I ended up in this $10 million home right here off of Malibu. And it was a very nice home, like a celebrity home. And I walked into the shoot not confident, more like cocky. Okay. So more like, I already know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I did such a horrible job that I couldn't even charge the realtor for the job that I did. The moral of the story and the point is, I walked in overconfident and self-reliant upon myself. I didn't pray. I didn't ask God for help. I didn't, I wasn't humble. Right. And so this has happened to me several times in my life, and then I remember, and then I humble myself, and then, God helps me. I'm able to do what I wasn't able to do, but now I'm not relying in my own strength. I'm relying on God's strength. And so what you're saying is the same thing happens in marriage, where yes, we started off not having anything. And so right now we're on this journey of it's discovering things, we're conquering, we're doing all this stuff. But a potential ditch in the upcoming future is we can become so man, look at all these wins. Wow, we're piling on trophies, we're piling on wins. And then we're getting so self-reliant to we're oh, we got this. We don't need to pray. We don't need we don't need each other. Actually, you know what? These are my needs. And because that's what I have kind of seen in different people that do end up there in my conversation with them, is that, yeah, it's the very very me focused and very
I've heard even the lie of I've outgrown you. I've gone to another level, I'm an influencer, or you know, have my own platform, or I have this. And it's like, what are you going to bring to the table? Like, can you keep up with me? I've also heard that lie before, you know, which is so, to me, it's so foreign, because it's like, aren't you supposed to be growing together? I mean, I know there's seasons where God will highlight Pablo, you know, in some seasons, and I'm more behind the scenes, but we're still doing it together.
But are we seeing that wrong? Is it like, it doesn't matter if you're in front of the camera or behind the camera, you're
Right,
still
you're
part of the
still
same
one.
crew?
Yeah. Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the greatest things the enemy uses to destroy marriages is pride. And so everything that you just spoke about, all are rooted in pride.
Yeah.
So if your heart motive at the end of the day basically is coming from a place of pride, then yes, it's easy for your marriage to there be division and then destruction. Because if you think about, you know, when we're 19 and 20 years old and we're like, we don't know what the heck we're doing. All
Right.
we know is we saw marriage, you know, from our parents, from other people. We're like, yeah, we think we can do it differently,
Yeah.
and we want to do it differently. But we came from a place of humility.
Yeah.
We had nothing. Literally, we started in a 500, square foot little place, but it was like the best times of our
Yeah.
life. If we
Yeah.
look back, we thought, oh my gosh, it was so simple. And we were so humble because we're like, I don't know, you tell me, what do you need from me? What can I give you? And how can I help you? And how can I serve you? Then all of a sudden, as we age in marriage, then it becomes very much about what I need. And then it's just all rooted in pride, which then takes out a majority of marriages. And I wonder if we were to do our own research and look back, you know, is 50% of marriages ending in divorce? And are they like, 20, 25 years into marriage because all of a sudden now pride has really taken root in their marriage, and they're not even coming at it from a place of humility and gratitude for just who that person is and what they've done in your life.
Wow.
And I think you have to have I think it's important. What is marriage and what are we trying to accomplish and achieve together? Right. So like part of marriage for Shelby and I was a lifelong commitment. Like we want to, like we kind of joke about it, but like, if you remember like the Notebook, right? Like we want to like lie down and, 85, 90, 100 years old in a bed and like close our eyes and be with the Lord. Like, and it sounds really Hollywood, but I want you to think about this. Like Shelby and I, we used to walk around this lake together, and then we started, she likes running. So then we started jogging around this lake together. And what we realized, what you said, Pablo, is so true. Sometimes the pace is different, right? And so here's the issue. If you guys don't learn how to work together, then you may outpace your spouse and think that they're holding you back, when actuality they're keeping you from burning out.
Wow.
Right.
That's so good.
And you may be the person that is not actually motivated and moving things forward, and you actually may be keeping the two of you from actually taking further steps ahead. And so here's what I realized: on the journey of life and marriage, we gotta talk about what's the pace right now. What are we trying to accomplish? So like Shelby and I have a vision for 50 years married, right? Like we have that vision, guys, from before we got married. Like we literally talked about what would it look like in 50 years when we're married still. Like we had that conversation when we were actually engaged, right? And we talked about like being the old couple sitting on the porch with the swing, right? And like holding hands to go get the mail, right? Like that's how like I have that vision in my mind. And so here's the thing, we're chasing that vision, right? So
but now it's changed a little. Now
it wants to be at the beach. It's gotta be close to the
you don't have
ocean,
to be
and
holding hands.
we're gonna run around the block.
But I think
right. That's what I was
if you
gonna say.
don't have vision, right? Where there's no vision, people perish.
Right.
So having a vision for your marriage, and then realizing, bro, if we keep up your pace or we keep up my pace, like you may burn us out, right? So we got to find a pace, right, that we can actually do it together.
That's so good. And as you say that, I laugh because I feel like we've done that a couple of times to each other where, Paul was like, let's go. And I'm like, no, hold on. But he's also done that to me where I'm like, I want to finish this. I want to finish that, and he's like, actually, we've traded spots, I think, this year.
Okay.
Where I'm like, I want to do this already. He's like, no, hold on, you know? So, I mean, it's a good thing. But I love that. I think, you know, we have like 10 minutes left. I think I want to kind of talk about parenting. We've mentioned so many already good things, you know, for children. I mean, you guys have adult children, and what I see from here, from like my perspective, they're lovely children. They're, you know, your son is what, you know, I think, I don't know if it was Shelby that posted your son, is it Tyler? Sorry, correct me.
Tyler.
Yeah. Tyler, like, you know, giving the word, like preaching. To me, that is, as a mom, like that is something that I'm like, dude, that's exactly, you know, our vision, you know. And but then you get to think, I get sometimes, you know, like thoughts of like, obviously I don't want to force them to do anything, right? Because when they're adults, they get to choose. But it's like, how do you steward that in them when you see the call in them, when you see the gifting in them? Like, how have you guys done it? Like, did you guys force him? Did you guys like, you know,
So,
brainwash
yeah, I
him?
mean, yeah. Our kids are we are honored. And I say that from a genuine heart. We are honored to be their parents. Like, we can't believe that the God of heaven would choose them to be our kids. And that's literally how we saw them from when they were really little, you know, to who they are today. And so we have a 20-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old son, and they are some of our heroes by far. And so they always have known, like, we are there, we're supporting them. And even when they were little, you know, we would challenge them to do hard things. And one of our family mottos is, we do hard things, right? So when they were coming up against obstacles, which all kids do, which we do, you know, we'd remind them, no, remember, you do hard things, be strong and courageous.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one of the, when we've always kind of let them be them.
Yeah.
We never push them to, you have to do sports. You know, my husband did sports his whole life. And so you would think like he would be one to be like, and he would coach sports, you know, like, my son has to do sports. And no, our son, actually, he liked to do drama. He liked to do choir. You know, and we were good with that. And we supported our kids any which way that they decided to go.
Yeah.
And they know that. And we really wanted to call the gifts, the God gifts, out in them. And so anytime we would see them drawing or, you know, writing a story, or, you know, we would really try to cultivate the gifts that God's placed in them. And now, as parents, we're able to see them flourish. And so we've never pushed them in one way or another. We've always said, you know what, ask the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit lives in you. And he's telling you right now what you're supposed to do. And so, our son, he's a Bible teacher. He teaches 150 junior hires, the word of God, every day. And that is literally, he's shaping the next generation. And we are just blessed and honored to be his parents and see our legacy lived out in front of us.
How did you guys help him to come to that conclusion, like that he wants to be a Bible teacher? Or did he come up with on his own?
Oh, no, he came up with that with God, because actually, if he were here right now on this podcast, he would tell you that there's a couple things he never wanted to do.
Okay.
And like, real talk, he would say, I never wanted to be a teacher.
Oh.
And he would say, I never want to actually be a pastor and like be somebody that's up there teaching. And now I'm saying that because it's so funny. It wasn't because he didn't see it. He actually he didn't like maybe how he saw his parents treated. And you realize you can't deny the call on your life. And so one of the things that's been unique for us too is really making sure, right, that we don't try and force our kids into what we think.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing you got to realize about parenting, just like we said about marriage. Many of us are parenting based on the experiences we've had.
Right.
The things that we went through, good, bad, or ugly, or indifferent. And there's a scripture, Psalms 127, that says, unless the Lord build the house, those who build it labor in vain, right? And so there's something about realizing that God has a purpose and a plan for the children that he entrusted to you, right? And it's not your plan. And it's
Right.
not your will or your purpose, it's God's will. And just like we want to fulfill God's plan and purpose for us individually and our marriage, we actually want to make sure that we're cultivating in our kids a real desire to hear God, to trust God, to know that they've got us in their corner. Like I will say this as a parent, if you want to cultivate something in your kids, show up for them, right? So like my son, he didn't start teaching, right? With the degree from CBU, a psychology degree. He didn't start teaching, when he became a teacher. He actually started teaching all the way back when he was like 7 years old, when he's actually leading small groups. Why? He saw mom and dad leading small groups, right? Because we got him around other people that called the gift of God out in his life as well, and gave him opportunities to do it and to not be good at it, right? And get better at it. Like, I think that's the other thing. We've got to give our kids the opportunity to not be good at something, because if you're going to be great at something, you started not being very good at it, right? And so then you kind of realize, what is that? Like Shelby said, their natural bend. And then you start to celebrate them, right? For small wins, not for like, they're the best at this. No, they're trying. They're actually, think about when your kids learned how to walk, right? When they learned how to walk, their first step, you lost your mind, right? But it wasn't like when they tried and they fell down, you were like, you suck. What is wrong with you? How come you can't walk?
Bro, just walk.
Like 14, 15 months old. But now it's nothing like, of course they're walking, right? And so you just realize that God, the idea of parenting is helping them to grow and develop and to realize God knows what it means to be a parent. Oh, he's growing and developing you and I. And he has a plan and a purpose, and he's helping to guide us and shape us, but he doesn't take away our free will. And so I think as parents, when we get that picture that God knows what it means to be a parent, and we don't try and just bring our dysfunction.
I think that's so, that's so hard to do right there, Joe. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I know we're beginning to learn that right now. Because it's like not like knowing that at the end of the day, you cannot control they're human beings, they have their own destinies, their own calls from God. They need to learn to hear God for themselves, right? And so I think, well, I like this. I think, and maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about, but from what I've seen, it seems like it's a bit harder for mothers to do that than for fathers a little bit. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Because, at least for me, I like seeing them take risks and go out, and even if they fail at something, but I think maybe, and I don't know, maybe you could speak into this, or Shelby, like how do you get there where Joe's saying, and trust God and allow them to make their own decisions, no matter if you see like, okay, well, this isn't exactly what I did, or but what can you guys speak into that?
I think Shelby will be good because she's way ahead of me on this.
One thing that we have done is like at the dinner table, I would ask them once a week, like, where have you failed this week? And they were very much like, what do you mean? Where have I failed? Well, just tell me, where's one area that you failed at? Because they, our kids tend to be very much like achievers, perfectionists. And so I knew that if they could tell me where they may have failed, during the week, that means that they tried something, that they got out of their comfort zone and they did something, which actually helped them to grow, right, and expand. And then they're like, well, I failed at this, but I'm really proud of myself that I even went out there and tried, right? So they would tell us that. We would celebrate the fact that they even tried something new and exciting. And, I think it probably depends on personality wise. Yes. As a mother, you're very much a nurturer, and, you're like, and I don't want anything to happen to my baby. But then it comes a point in you where you're a warrior too. And that you have, helped birth other little warriors.
Mhm.
And in this day and age, like they have to know their voice. So at very young age, when they were very small, you know, I tell my daughter, you have a voice for this generation. God has given you a voice for this generation. So it is key as a mother to speak the future and life and their destiny, because you have the power to speak destiny into their life, even when they're in the womb.
Yeah.
And so what you say will matter, and it will absolutely shape their entire future and their destiny.
And you
Yeah.
got to stay connected. You can't be disconnected. Like when Shelby's saying, like, we have family dinners, like we have adult kids, and because they're still in the house, we still have a set family dinner that's non-negotiable,
Mm.
right? Because we want to know in their life right now, what are you challenged with?
Mm.
What's going on? How can we be praying for you?
Yeah.
What risks, to your point, Pablo, what risks at 23 and 20 are you taking that we can support you in? What advice or wisdom, right, could we possibly, and we create space for it so they know that it's a consistent thing in their life.
That's
When
good.
our kids were younger, it wasn't once a week. It was 3 to
Right.
4 times a week,
Night
right?
sitting, yeah.
Because when we weren't doing family dinner, we were probably at church, or we were probably doing something else where we were doing it as a family. So I think that's the issue today too, is we let families disconnect from each other,
Mm.
even in the same house.
That's
And so I would just tell you,
good.
have to protect, because how are you actually growing your children if you're not actually pouring into them?
I love
right?
that. Yeah.
You planted the seed, then you have to water it, but God's the one that causes it to grow.
Mm.
If you're not watering them, someone else or something else is.
100%.
And so they don't grow by accident. They grow on purpose, and you have to stay on purpose. You have to stay connected.
Yeah.
This is one of the things in any relationship, your relationship with God, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your kids, the things that matter most. You can't be disconnected or put it on autopilot and expect it to get to the destination.
Yeah.
You've got to stay engaged.
I mean, one of the
So
things
good.
that I've always respected and seen in you guys and just admired is the fact that you guys are so intentional about all of these things, and I think that really is the key to all of these different conversations that we've been having today.
Yeah.
Is just remaining intentional. Like, okay, so you're gonna get married. All right, you're 18, you're 19. All right, well, what's your vision? You know what? Let's talk about 50 years from now. Okay, holding hands to the mailbox. Okay, all right.
We
And
gotta
even
try that.
even if it changes, because now Shelby's
Holding
like, nah,
hands.
no, I don't want to be walking. I want to be running
Yeah,
to that
she's
thing.
changed.
I want to take laps.
Well,
Let's-
now I realize the age will be 50 years married. We'll still be young.
yeah, Shelby's like, no, I want to take like 5 laps, like
a
running. and then,
marathon, yeah.
we're gonna
It's
take
so funny.
yeah, but it's about being intentional. Like, okay, with your children, you guys are like, okay, well, now, you know, they're 23, and so like we're having these weekly, you know, check-ins where we ask them, what risk did you take? But then you're like, wait, but no, when they were younger, it was actually 3-4 times we're asking them this question. See, it's like you're being intentional. You're not waiting for life to happen to you.
Yeah.
Like you're
taking-
being intentional,
yeah.
and you're planning, but you're having vision. And I think that's really what it takes.
And that's, I think, what it makes it so fun, you know, because when you set goals, and then you start to see the Lord answer the prayers, even that you have with your kids, like that is one thing we're starting now that they're a little older. Like we start to ask them questions like, well, like, what do you want to see this year? Like, what do you want to accomplish this year? You know, like, and then like they'll see it and then they're like, oh, like God, you know, he helped me do this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, our 5-year-old was struggling with like reading. And he came back today, yesterday. He goes, I have a surprise for you. And I was like, oh, what happened? He shows me a bookmark that in the back it had a note from his teacher that said, great job. You did amazing in reading today. And he was actually able to move up to another reading group because he's doing better.
That's so cool.
And for him, you know, and we, like
Yeah.
you said, we've been doing hard things. Like
Yeah.
we don't give up just because you failed at it, once or twice. Like, we keep going.
But
So,
we even helped them out with that goal. We said, look,
Yeah.
you're in this reading group.
yes.
We want to challenge you to
This
get to
was
this next
like
reading
a
group.
month
It was like a month
ago.
ago.
Yeah, and he did it. So,
Yeah.
so it's so true. I think it's just being so intentional and hearing the Lord, and that's one thing I love, to wrap it up. One thing I love, and I always say this, I was actually talking to someone yesterday. I think it's so important that if we're not surrounding ourselves with people that are way ahead of us, mentors, friends, that can just speak into us and inspire us and motivate us, then I think we're not going to really grow that much. Like, I know, like Pablo was saying earlier, you guys came at such a time that we needed this, we needed this type of friendship, this type of coaching, mentorship, because every time I meet with Shelby, it's okay, what do you want God to do this month? And it's crazy because we'll pray about it. And then I'm texting her, hey, like, God did this, and it was like a matter of days. It wasn't even a matter of weeks. So I think it's so important for people to surround yourself with people that are going to push you, and hold you accountable to. And I think even that's a whole conversation of what is accountability. Accountability is just calling you to a higher standard where you can do it. God has called you to. And that's what marriage should also be.
Yeah, guys. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Shelby and
Joe and
Joe,
Shelby, you
thank
guys are awesome.
We love you guys.
yeah.
I know this was such a rich conversation. I can't wait to hear it back. I always hear back the conversations we have, and it just, it blessed me right now. And I actually have a lot of questions that when we meet, I'll ask.
Yeah, but
I'll ask.
I like this format too, of like the whole Zoom, because I know, trying to get people to come to the studio, that's
It's
really
so
tough.
hard.
But I mean, hopefully you guys are open to, doing this again in the future. I think there's a lot
we'd
more
love
that we
to.
got to break down.
We'd absolutely love to.
Yeah. So,
Thank you
so yeah,
guys.
but I think it's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
It was really, thank you guys for being here.
We love you guys.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you
Take
for taking the
care.
time.
Bye.
Thank- Everybody else, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, guys. And we'll see you on the next episode.